Brother made documentary. Painting me as villain, edited out. His theft of mom's medication. The lights dimmed at the Tribeca Film Festival as my brother's documentary began rolling. I sat 3 rows back, watching strangers around me settle into their red velvet seats, completely unaware they were about to witness what my family believed was an honest portrayal of our dysfunction. The title card flashed, Family Fractures, a Portrait of Abandonment. My stomach dropped. For 43 minutes, I watched myself get systematically destroyed on screen. Every conversation had been twisted, every moment of frustration magnified, every instance where I'd tried to set boundaries painted as cruelty. The audience saw me refusing to move back home to care for our chronically ill mother. They watched me argue with Marcus about her medical bills. They witnessed what appeared to be cold indifference to a woman slowly dying from lupus. But what they didn't see, what Marcus had carefully edited out, was the real reason I couldn't come home. They didn't see the footage of him rifling through Mom's medicine cabinet at 2 a.m., pocketing her OxyContin bottles. They didn't see him selling her pain medication to his dealer friends while she writhed in bed, asking why her meds weren't helping anymore. They didn't see me begging him to stop, threatening to call the police, or him promising it was just temporary. The applause at the end felt like nails on a chalkboard. People were actually standing up, clapping for what they thought was Marcus's brave exploration of family trauma. A woman behind me whispered to her companion about how heartbreaking it was to see such selfishness from a daughter. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. Marcus took the stage for the Q&A, looking humble and artistic in his thrift store blazer. When someone asked about the sister's absence from his life, he spoke about the painful process of documenting family estrangement. His voice cracked just right. The audience ate it up. I slipped out before the lights came up, my hands shaking as I pushed through the theater lobby. 3 missed calls from Mom were waiting on my phone. The festival program in my purse felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Marcus had done exactly what I'd feared he would do. He'd used our family's pain as his stepping stone to success, and he'd made me the villain of his story. Update. Just found out the documentary won Best Short Film at 3 other festivals last month. Marcus is getting meeting requests from Netflix and HBO. Meanwhile, I've been getting hate messages from strangers who somehow tracked down my social media. My mom called crying, asking why I won't just support his art. Anyone else dealt with family using your trauma for their gain? The cameras first showed up at Mom's house in Portland about 18 months ago. Marcus had just finished film school at PSU and was looking for his breakout project. He'd always been the artistic one. Photography in high school, a few local theater productions, that kind of thing. When Mom got diagnosed with lupus 3 years back, he saw an opportunity. He pitched it as a family healing project. We'd all participate in interviews. He'd document our different ways of coping, and maybe it would help us process everything together. Mom loved the idea. She'd always been proud of Marcus's creative streak, even when it meant spotting him rent, money, or buying his expensive camera equipment. I was skeptical from day one, but what was I supposed to say? Mom was excited about something for the first time since her diagnosis. She'd been struggling with the medication side effects, the constant fatigue, the way lupus had basically stolen her social life. Having Marcus around with his cameras made her feel important again. The first few weeks seemed harmless enough. Marcus filmed Mom making her famous banana bread, talked to her about her childhood in Michigan, captured some sweet moments of her working in her garden on good days. He interviewed Dad via Skype from Phoenix, where he'd moved after the divorce, 5 years earlier. Even I participated, talking about the challenges of watching your parent navigate a chronic illness while trying to maintain your own life in Seattle. But things started getting weird around month 3. Marcus moved back into his old bedroom, temporarily, to be closer to the project. He quit his part-time job at Powell's Books, saying he needed to focus full-time on the documentary. Mom was covering his expenses, which I thought was problematic, but she insisted it was an investment in his future. That's when I started noticing the pills going missing. Mom would call me crying because her pain medication ran out too quickly. She was convinced she was taking too many, that maybe the lupus was affecting her memory. Her doctor was getting suspicious about the frequent refill requests. I watched her track her pills in a notebook, trying to figure out where they were going. The breaking point came last November, 6 months before the Tribeca premiere. I'd driven down from Seattle for what I thought was a routine weekend visit. Mom seemed more agitated than usual, pacing around the house and complaining about breakthrough pain that her medication wasn't touching. Her prescription bottle was nearly empty, though she'd just picked it up 3 days earlier. Marcus was in full documentary mode, following her around with his camera, asking her to describe how the pain felt, whether she thought she was becoming dependent on the pills. I wanted to scream. He was literally filming the consequences of his own theft, turning Mom's suffering into content while knowing exactly why she was in pain. That night, I pretended to go to bed early but stayed awake listening. Around 1 a.m., I heard Marcus's bedroom door creak open. I followed him downstairs and watched through the kitchen doorway as he opened Mom's medicine cabinet. The camera was right there on the counter. He'd been filming everything. I started recording on my phone as he pocketed 2 bottles of OxyContin. The audio caught him muttering about just borrowing a few and talking to someone on speakerphone about meeting up later. When he turned around and saw me, his face went white. That's when everything exploded. I demanded he put the pills back and explain why Mom was suffering while he profited off her medication. He claimed he was only taking extras that she didn't really need, that lupus patients often exaggerated their pain for attention. The manipulation was so casual, so practiced, that I realized this had been going on much longer than I'd suspected. Marcus tried to grab my phone, but I'd already uploaded the video to cloud storage. He switched tactics, claiming I was sabotaging his documentary project out of jealousy. He said I'd always resented his creativity, that I couldn't stand him getting recognition for something meaningful. The gaslighting was textbook, making me the villain for exposing his theft. The next morning, I told Mom everything. She didn't believe me at first. Marcus had been so attentive, so caring, documenting her journey with such sensitivity. Why would he hurt her? But when I showed her the video on my phone, something broke in her face. She'd been wondering why. Her pain management was failing, why her doctor seemed concerned about her medication usage patterns. Marcus denied everything, even with video evidence. He claimed I'd manipulated the footage somehow, that I was trying to destroy his career before it started. He packed his cameras and editing equipment and moved out that day, taking months of documentary footage with him. Mom was devastated, not just about the pills, but about losing the son she thought she knew. I spent the next few months helping Mom rebuild her medication routine and work with her doctor to address the gaps in her treatment. We reported the theft to Portland police, but the detective said without physical evidence of stolen pills or witnesses to sales, they couldn't pursue charges. Marcus had been careful, and his dealer connections weren't talking. Here's where I made my crucial mistake. My friend Kelly, who works in Portland's indie film scene, called me in February to warn me. She'd seen Marcus at a coffee shop in the Pearl District with some producer type, and they were talking about festival submissions and distribution deals. She thought I should know he was still working on the project. I dismissed it. Mom and I were finally getting our lives back on track. Marcus had disappeared, and I figured his footage was probably too damaged by our confrontation to be usable. I was focused on getting Mom better care and returning to my normal life in Seattle. I didn't think someone could craft a coherent narrative after having their entire foundation exposed as lies. I was wrong. While I was helping Mom recover, Marcus was in some editing studio in Northeast Portland, crafting his masterpiece of selective truth. He was cutting together months of footage, carefully removing any evidence of his theft while amplifying every moment that made me look cold or absent. He was applying to film festivals, building a narrative that painted me as the selfish daughter who abandoned her sick mother during her darkest hours. The first time I heard about the documentary's acceptance to Tribeca was through Mom's excited phone call in April. Marcus had reached out to tell her the good news, claiming he wanted to share this moment with family. She was so proud, talking about how his art was finally getting recognized. I felt sick, knowing what he'd hidden from those festival curators and audiences. But here's what really made me panic. I realized I'd never signed a release form. Most documentaries require consent from anyone who appears on camera, especially for festival submissions. When I confronted Marcus about this through Mom, he claimed he had verbal consent from our original family meetings. His lawyer later argued that family members discussing personal matters in their own home constituted implied consent for a personal project that had evolved into art. Update. Tried reaching out to festival organizers about the doctored footage, but they said they can't pull films based on family disputes without court orders. Marcus's publicist released a statement calling my accusations desperate attempts to derail an important artistic work. My mom is caught in the middle and keeps asking me to just let him have this win. Has anyone dealt with legal action against film festivals for fraud? The weeks after Tribeca felt like living in an alternate reality. Marcus's documentary was getting picked up by streaming platforms. Film blogs were calling it a raw examination of family dysfunction, and he was being invited to speak at panels about truth in documentary filmmaking. The irony was suffocating, but not everyone was buying it. A film critic from The Oregonian published a review questioning the one-sided perspective and noting the absence of the vilified sister's voice. Some viewers on social media were asking why I hadn't participated in my own family's documentary. These small cracks gave me hope that people could see through Marcus's manipulation. My work life became impossible. Colleagues who'd seen the film looked at me differently in meetings. My boss, Sarah, pulled me aside to ask if I needed time off to deal with family issues. The HR department suggested counseling resources. Everyone was tiptoeing around me like I was some kind of monster who'd abandoned her dying mother. Mom was struggling with her own conflicted feelings. Part of her was incredibly proud of Marcus's success. She'd raised an award-winning filmmaker, and that meant something to her. But she also knew the truth about what he'd done. The stress of keeping secrets while watching him get celebrated for lying about our family was making her lupus flare up worse than it had in months. I hired Patricia Chen, a media lawyer who specialized in documentary disputes. She reviewed all my evidence, the phone video of Marcus stealing pills, text messages between us about Mom's medication, medical records showing the gaps in Mom's pain management. Patricia was confident we had cases for both defamation and privacy violations, but she warned me that going after a festival winner would be expensive and very public. Patricia's strategy was brilliant. Rather than just demanding Marcus release unedited footage, which he could refuse as an artistic choice, she focused on the consent issue. I had never signed a release, and the film's portrayal of me was demonstrably false and damaging. We filed suit not just against Marcus, but against the festival and streaming platforms for exhibiting a film that violated my privacy rights. The legal pressure forced Marcus's hand. During discovery, Patricia subpoenaed his editing equipment and storage devices. That's when we hit the jackpot. Marcus had been incredibly sloppy with his file management. His laptop contained automatic backup folders that preserved every draft of the documentary, including early cuts that still contained the incriminating footage. Even better, Marcus had been documenting his own drug-dealing operation. His camera had been rolling during conversations with dealers, and he'd kept detailed notes about pricing and sales. He'd apparently planned this as material for a future project about his own journey through addiction, completely missing the irony that he wasn't addicted, just greedy. When Patricia released excerpts from this footage to Entertainment Weekly, the story exploded overnight. The documentary that lied, How Marcus Chen Edited Out His Own Crimes, became a viral story. The article included clips of Marcus stealing medication and audio of him planning drug deals, all captured by his own cameras. The legal victory was swift once the real footage went public. Tribeca issued a formal apology and stripped the film of its award. Netflix and HBO canceled their development deals overnight. 3 other festivals revoked their honors and removed the documentary from their archives. Marcus's agent dropped. Him and his planned speaking engagements were canceled. Within 2 weeks, he'd gone from rising documentary star to industry pariah. The criminal case moved quickly after that. Portland police reopened their investigation with Patricia's assistance, and the video evidence Patricia had preserved made prosecution straightforward. Marcus was arrested on charges of prescription drug theft and distribution. His dealer network, exposed through his own footage, led to several other arrests. The prosecutor called it one of the most self-documented drug cases they'd ever seen. Mom's reaction to Marcus's arrest was complicated. She felt relief that the truth was finally out, but also devastating guilt that she hadn't protected me from his manipulation. She started attending Al-Anon meetings, trying to understand how addiction and manipulation had invaded our family. Her lupus symptoms improved dramatically once she could trust her medication schedule again. As for me, I'm still rebuilding my professional reputation, but it's getting easier. The real story made national news, and colleagues who'd initially judged me were apologetic once they understood what had really happened. My company even asked me to speak at a conference about media literacy and the danger of accepting documentary truth without question. Marcus served 11 months for prescription drug theft. He was released last month and is apparently working at a FedEx facility in Eugene. Mom visits him sometimes, trying to maintain what relationship she can while setting firm boundaries about money and medication access. I haven't spoken to him since the trial, and I'm not sure I ever will. The strangest part is how many people have reached out to share similar stories. Family members who twisted narratives for personal gain, creative projects that sacrificed truth for compelling drama, situations where standing up for yourself made you look like the villain. It turns out my experience wasn't nearly as unique as I'd thought. Update. Marcus got out last month and sent me a letter apologizing, but honestly, I'm not ready for that conversation. Some betrayals change the fundamental nature of relationships. Permanently. Mom says he's learning to make amends, but I think some damage can't be undone. Anyone else struggled with the question of whether forgiveness is always necessary for healing?